Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel and the start of a new week of random deck techs, and this is the random one that's thrown up this week. Mazirek, Kraul Death Priest, 3 black and a green for a 2/2 legendary creature. I think it's Insect Shaman, which is hidden at the moment. Has flying, that makes sense, it's an insect. But whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. I'm sorry. Whenever anyone sacrifices anything, he gets put +1/+1 counter on all the creatures in play. Right, yeah. This is a good one. I like this one a lot. So here we go. Here's what today's deck tech looks like. This is just silly. As usual, for one of the deck techs, start with the mana base. Black and green lands all the way through, including Fabled Passage, Blooming Marsh, Haunted Mire, Hissing Quagmire, Landwild Waste, Necroblossom Snarl, Overgrown Tomb, Restless Cottage, whole load of swamps. Couple of things I will point out. Tainted Woodland, Tainted Wood, I would go and pick these up. If you're playing a black deck or black X deck, these things are always really good. They're just really free dual lands if you have a swamp in play, which you probably will have with any black deck, especially if you're playing Urborg. Black's one of your main colours, have Urborg in. I have checked in Verdant Catacombs, Woodland Cemetery, Woodland Chasm, and Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, because if you're playing black green, you might as well play both of these lands. They're just good. Make everything else. So even your mana base out. Artifact wise, I've kept going with what I talked about the other week, spells and ramp, and trying to minimise some of it. So I am playing Jeweled Lotus, which may be a wrong mistake. It possibly could be one of the suspend talismans, but we'll go with Jeweled Lotus now if we want to try and get Mazirek out as quickly as we can. We've got Soul Ring in here, Arcane Signet, and one of each of the medallions just to help. So not too much artifact ramp, but in addition to that, I think it's worth pointing out now, we've got Nature's Law in here, we've got 3 Physics, we've got Rampant Growth, Cultivate, and somewhere a little bit further down, Kodoma's Reach. So we've got a fair amount of ramp in here. Is it enough? Not sure, but I think it's a good starting place. So going from there, let's look at the rest of the deck. Notice this is when anyone sacrifices anything. So it's not just creatures, but it's clues, it's treasures, it's food. So we've got a little bit of a mixture of everything in here, and I think it should work out. So we can build our creatures up and get even bigger and get there quicker. So Greedy Freebooter, when it dies, we get to have a treasure token and a scry, which is very nice, and we get it killed off. Hopefully we can sacrifice it somehow. We've got a few sack outlets coming up. We get +1/+1 counter on it as well. Great. Gilded Goose is ramp, obviously, and we can sacrifice food, and we can create food, and this plus this means that we can make a food and then sack a food the next turn, get a mana, get a +1/+1 counter on everything, start going there. Because this deck is really interested in +1/+1 counters, I've gone with Hardened Scales, so we've got a lot of the +1/+1 extra counter package in the deck, and Elixir of Immortality, just so we can slough everything back in if it goes pear-shaped. Blood Artist gives us a payoff when we get another creature that dies. Canonizing Blood is a new card from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and at the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, you put +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That's right, it's just a nice little way of some of our things get killed off. Another way of getting an extra +1/+1 on something. And we can sack it eventually for 7 mana and get a 4/3 white and black Vampire Demon creature token with flying. So, gives us a little bit of a additional backup if we need it. Zulaput Cutthroat, just another way of getting life drain and gain. Evolutionary Leap, it gives us a lovely sack outlet for some of the creatures if we don't need them anymore. Block with something and sack it off, because it doesn't say it's sorcery speed. So replace those things, keep a green mana up to do it with. Prosperous Innkeeper gives us a treasure token of sacrifice and a little bit of life gain. I think I've talked about everything else there. I have. 3 drops. As you can see, this deck, this one, again, I think we can get away with 36 land, because most of the deck is concentrated here in the 3 drops. So, Bastion of Remembrance, a little bit of life gain for everything, but we have got Demon's Disciple, we have got Fleshbag Marauder, Gravelighter, Merciless Executioner. I think that's all of them. Playcrafter, I knew there was one more. We've got them all here because, we want people to sacrifice things, and don't forget, it's whenever a player sacrifices another, So if you sacrifice this, everyone else sacrifices one each. That's all your creatures getting 4+1/+1 counters, ones left in play. It gets very daft very quickly with this in mind. Doom Necromancer gives us a way of getting things back from our graveyard if we need to, and again, obviously triggers the sacrifice effect for the +1/+1s. Fane, the Broker, is also here, because if there was ever a deck that Fane needed to be in, it's this one, sacrificing things. Yeah, gets +1/+1 counters. Like that plan. Cool. Fleshbag, Gravelight, Merciless Executioner I've mentioned. Nadir's Nightblade's a little bit pricey on MCG, that's why I've got a full version, but it's whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Especially with the treasures and food we're going to be generating shortly, nice little way of making sure everyone starts draining even more if we can keep this in play. Rapturous Guest, whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage for play, create a food token, so potentially 3 food tokens a turn if you can get things through unblocked. Sacrifice food, you get to make this bigger, and when the guest dies you get to drain someone equal to its power, not toughness, power on this one. Tabarak's Hope's Demise, I just quite like. Another non-token creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. If it was a cleric, you draw a card, lose a life, you don't, but you know, hopefully we'll get up to the 5 +1/+1 counters on it very quickly to get the life link, and it's a lovely little win condition. Tempting Witch gives us another way of sacrificing things we need to, getting rid of our food that way. Woe Strider gives a way of sacrificing creatures off. Again, you know, sacrifice another permanent, it works. They are permanent, so hopefully it will come through. And Drana, Liberator of Malakir, is just here to chuck around the +1/+1 counters when we're attacking. Branching Evolution doubles up the +1/+1 counters we're putting on. Brandywine Farmer gives us a food token when it enters and leaves the battlefield, so another thing to sacrifice. Fey Offering, if we get a creature and a non-creature spell cast, gives us a clue, a food, and a treasure, which gives us lots of things to get +1/+1 counters with. Kami of the Whispering Hopes, you're going to do +1/+1 counters. You might also have this in here as well. Also gives a really good mana ramp spell. Rishika Pima Renegade means all our creatures with +1/+1 counters on them start tapping for mana. Tyler's Tracker, whenever a land enters, we get a clue token. Sack a clue, get a +1/+1 counter on the tracker. You know the score, it's very simple. Akawali, the Seething Tower, 1 black and green from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Sorry, a little bit tired this afternoon. Descend 4. As there are 4 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, it gets +2/+2 and has trample. And when you get to 8 permanent cards in your graveyard, gets an additional +2/+2, so it's +4/+4, has trample, and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So you're going to have to put something bigger in front of it, or something with Death Touch to deal with it, basically. So yeah, should be good fun. Academy Manufacturer helps us out with the extra clue, food, and treasure tokens to sacrifice. And then we've got some ways of sacrificing creatures that help. Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar. Ashnod's gives us 2 colourless, Phyrexian gives us 1 coloured. Nice way of sacrificing your creatures off. But we have got ways of doing it, it's all good. Shelob, the Dread Weaver, is also here. Whenever a non-creature an opponent controls dies, you can exile it. You can get it back into play if you pay black 1 and X, where X is the mana with the mana value of the exiled card. Or, you know, if you need to draw a card, you can just pay 3 and put a card exiled with it into a graveyard. But you do get to draw a card, and you get to make Shelob a little bit bigger. So, you know, 5/5 maybe quite quickly on. Glittermonger is just tap, gives us a treasure. Obviously the treasure then gets sacrificed, and we get to have lovely +1/+1 counters, which is great. Naom, the Master Chef, at the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you had into the battlefield under your control this turn. So maybe hopefully 1 a turn, so it gives you at least a food. And then you can sack a food, target creature gains indestructible in the turn, tap it. Quite useful. But another way of getting food tokens to sacrifice off for the permanent count. Over to the 5-drops. Ojek, Haslam, Deepest Growth. Had to have it here. Like I say, I have a little bit of addiction with this card. However, we want to put +1/+1 counters on it. And the more +1/+1 counters on it, the more likely are to get combat damage through. And reveal even more cards and put even more things into play, which will help out, you know, lands and creatures. And then, the transform ability, get it back, should be pretty straightforward. Ikara Shidiki the Usurper just gives a little bit of life equal to toughness of creatures, and since we're getting +1/+1 counters, we should be getting sort of like 4 or 5 every time we get to deal combat damage to a player. And I am playing a black-green deck, therefore the Gitrog monsters here. Nicely, this helps a lot with Mazirek, because you have the Gitrog in play, you have Mazirek in play, you have to sack a land. That means this gets bigger. This becomes a 7/7 the first turn, 8/8, so on and so forth. And you get to draw the cards and hopefully replace things. So it's all good. Over in 6-drop land, Grave Titan, win condition, Kukushku, win condition, Marionette Master. Foods, clues, and treasures are all artifacts. Therefore, sacking them off when this has got a power of more than 1. Well, even 1's good if you need the blockers for the servo counters. But yeah, does work very nicely to start sacking things off very quickly. It works, trust me. Bootlegger Stash, just another artifact that gives us some treasures by making our lands produce treasures instead of mana. Death's Presence, whenever a creature you control dies, put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control where X is the power of that creature. That's nice. Foreign Clicks, had to have this in here. Trample, Haste, double up the +1/+1 counters as things happen. Vigor, get all those lovely, lovely +1/+1 counters, which makes it even better. And Izoni, the 1000th Eye, 2 double black and double green for a 2/3 Elf Shaman. Enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black and green insect token for each creature card in your graveyard. You'll probably have a few by the time this comes into play. But even if you haven't, even if you just got a couple in play, Disciples, Faith, Doom Necromancer. Few insects do help. Sacrifice fodder. It's all good. They're permanents until they hit the graveyard. Abhorrent Overlord. Enters the battlefield, you get all those lovely harpy creatures. Yes, you have to sacrifice a creature at the beginning of your upkeep, but you can sacrifice the Overlord if you want to, then shuffle it back in with the Elixir of Immortality. Not the worst plan in the world. Blood Money just gives us a whole way to control the board, blow the board up, and then get a whole load of treasures, which we can reuse to cast things like our Commander. Avenger Zendikar gives you plants, brings them back in, sack the plants off, get +1/+1 counters everywhere alongside the landfall trigger. Titan of Industry I just like. Usually I go down the shield counter and the 4/4 Rhino, but it could be you need to destroy an artifact or enchantment to get something back that maybe Banishing Lighted maybe, or something similar. Or there's an artifact like that's not indestructible in play you need to get rid of. Bit of life gain. It depends, but yeah. I would reckon a good 4/5 of the time you'll be going the shield counter in the 4/4, so bear that in mind. Archon of Cruelty is just a fun one. I am really enjoying playing this card ever since it turned up in the cube this time round. And the final one, because we wanted people to sacrifice things, Portal to Phyrexia. Get this into play, survive to your next turn, nick someone's creature, have that come into play instead. And that's it. That's my fast guide to Mazirek Kraul Death Priest for this start this week off. We do have another Golgari deck coming up later in the week, but that's very strange. I don't get 2 Golgari decks, but I have this week that have been randomly generated. Let me know in the comments down below if there's anything I've missed out. I have checked the rules on this, and everyone has said to me that works this way. If you think I've got it wrong, please shout at me in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. But for now, there you go. It is Insect Shaman showing up now. Weird how MTGO works, but never mind. Hope you've enjoyed the deck tech. Hope you've hit the subscribe button that's down below if you aren't already subscribed. I'm 325 as I record this one today, so please help me out. Help me get to my 500 by the end of 2024. That'd be fantastic. And yeah, come back tomorrow and see what tomorrow's video brings. It's going to bring something interesting from the murders of Karloff Manor if things go to plan. So take care. See you tomorrow. Bye.